Alright, so once again my intro kind of cut out. I think maybe my GoPro's overheating, so I'll try and get like a shade for it or something. But it is cooling off, it's in the shade now, since I've got it going again. Loki is still a little bit tender. I don't know if you, I really don't know if I recorded the other intro, so I'm just going to go over this again. And if I already have it on the GoPro and it shows when I go upload these videos, I will cut this part out. So Loki's still tender. In the last video, video number 2, you saw that as he was going around the pen, he stepped on a rock and he limped pretty bad. So he's got very sore feet, and stepping on a rock is like stepping on a Lego. It is painful, it is no fun. And the next day when I came out to see him, I checked his hooves because I know that was a pretty big limp that he took. And sure enough, when I felt his hoof, these are not solid. There's actually a lot of blood supply inside the hoof and even bones underneath here. And his right hoof was way hotter than his left hoof. So feeling the difference in temperature means to me that the right hoof is actually inflamed, and that's why it's so much warmer. Obviously, it's going to be warm no matter what because he's a warm-blooded animal. But a good way to tell if what you're feeling is too warm is to compare it to the other limb, because very rarely are they lame on all 4 limbs at the same time. So it's easy to see if one is hotter than the other. So he was a little sore that day. He was definitely sore the next day. With that, I'm worried about an abscess developing, which basically means he has a bruise inside of his hoof, but the hoof is solid, so it kind of compresses all of that extra blood from that bruise, and that can cut off blood supply, and then the inflammation can cause the area that was bruised to not get the circulation it needs to break down that blood that's outside of the veins, and it develops into a really inflamed, pus-filled abscess, like a pimple inside the hoof, but worse. And those are really painful for horses, and that would probably put him out of work for 2 weeks, and he's only here for 30 days. So I did not want that to happen, so we put Loki on Bute, which is an anti-inflammatory, for 2 days. And I cold hosed him every day. We did some basic, like leading in and out of the barn. And he hung out with me a lot. And all of that means that he is feeling a lot better now, and I think that we are going to avoid an abscess. So that's good, I got ahead of it. But I don't want to push it too much. I already did my stuff off of the lunge line. I don't know how much of it recorded. I think my GoPro just shuts off when it gets too hot. So, but I'll show the clips of that I can. And he was already a little tender going around. Pretty much every little pebble he stepped on bothered him. So I'm going to work him in hand now. The thing about this horse on the end of a rope is he is pretty resistant to it. You kind of have to put a lot of weight and force into him to move him around. He just got so used to, I guess, you know, being manhandled, and he's kind of a bully himself. He's a big guy, and so the little things he doesn't really notice until they get bigger. So he's looking away, see? So he doesn't really notice this like a little horse would. And I'm putting about 3 to 5 pounds of force on this. Good. And so if you let your horse get away with that, ignoring the little signals, sometimes they're just distracted like toddlers, and they don't hear you when you call their name because they're so engrossed in whatever it is that they're doing. And so he got away with that, and I'm sure that whoever handled him before was like, oh, he's ignoring me, I'm just going to use more force and drag him around wherever I need him to go, kind of like that. That is how he leads. That's how he goes everywhere. I haven't really corrected it yet, so it's pretty easy to see. He just kind of has this sense that you're, you know, dragging a bowling ball around. So I want to get him light on the end of this rope. And the way that you do that, now that we're going to start progressing, is the same way that we do everything else. I want to ask with a little bit, so that's just a little. I'm just lifting the rope, taking the slack out of the rope, and rewarding when he gives me the right answer. Even if it means having to wait a little bit. That was really good, Loki. So there, I just took the slack out, and if he can follow that slack, then it's going to progress way faster. So you see how he's resisting me? There, but he turns his head. So we're going to go around the round pen and just do that. I have noticed that if I swing a rope around him or the whip around him, he just thinks he's in trouble and he gets really upset. So I'm actually going to try and incorporate that in a way that's just like, he's probably going to get upset, but I'm going to be very consistent. I'm not going to do it back to back. I'm just going to kind of throw it in there here and there and show him that my energy stays the same. I don't get excited just because he's excited. I'm not getting angry at him when I swing the rope, and so he doesn't have to fear me just because the rope is swinging. It's just a signal, just like the lead rope is a signal, just like the reins are a signal, just like when I put my legs around a horse and squeeze with one side but not the other, that's a signal. So those are all different aids, and this is no different. All of those things can be abused, and they can be abused intentionally or unintentionally. Some people are just heavy-handed, and that's just the way people are. But this horse and his rider are not heavy, or the rider for this horse is not heavy-handed. And I want to teach him how to respond to that light contact before he goes home, so that he always understands what his owner is asking of him, because that's how she's going to ask for just about everything. I have every faith that she's also going to be able to get after him if he needs it, but I know that she's not going to go right in with that tense pressure. She's going to go in with the light contact, and he needs to be prepared for that. So that was a really good bend, Loki. So when I'm standing at his side like this and I just pick up on the rope, good. See how his head's kind of high now because I put the rope on his back? He's like, I don't like ropes. They're scary. Good boy. Good boy. Take the slack out. I got a 1/2 inch of bend, and then he gave me the rest because I gave him a reward. He's curious. And now let's say sometimes I take the slack out and then a bird jumps out of the bushes behind me. He turns his head to look at it. So he's like, oh yeah, there's something over there. Technically he did the right thing, but it was for the wrong reason. It wasn't because he was following the rope, it was because he was curious about what just happened behind him. I don't care. I will reward that too. I don't care if they got the right answer for the wrong reason. I care that they get the right answer. And because I'm going to ask the question over and over and over again, who cares if they get it for the wrong reason one time? It's like having kids on a multiple choice test. Well, yeah, if they have to guess, every once in a while they're going to get one right, but we still count it. Because, you know, somehow they got onto that right track. Good boy. So same thing with Loki. So see how he's bending his whole body? I do want him just to bend his head a little, because this horse is stiff. Yes, you are. He's been a cart horse. That's a very straight way of going. Putting flexibility in this horse's body is probably going to be one of the hardest things he has to learn to be a sport horse. Very good boy. I'm going to go around. See, he's moving his body. So he stood still and his head moved a 1/2 inch. That's all it takes. Look at that, lick and chew. Are we learning? You good boy. All right, pick up the slack in the rope. He gave his head a 1/2 inch instantly. So I wouldn't ask for more than that until every time he does this. And he's getting there. You see that? You're such a good boy. Yeah. Pick up slack. He dropped his head. I don't really care. The fact is, he's making a response to the question I'm asking, and the question I'm asking is, how light can you be? Yes, that was it. And I love how his head is starting to hang lower and lower. You want that too. So I'm not going to reward him for moving his feet right now. There it is. Do I care that he bent his head all the way around? No, I care that he bent at all. He was kind of distracted by something behind the fence line. He was looking out over there. And then he remembered, oh, there's someone pulling on me. So he overreacted a little bit. But I mean, that's what I want to get to in the end anyway. Is that nice, easy give. So he's moving his feet, shaking his head. You don't want that, but there. That's what I want, buddy. That's what I want. Yeah. Good boy. pretty relaxed. He's kind of like, this is not so bad. This is easy training. So I got pressure on it. He's ignoring me. There's the turn. So is he strong enough to ignore me? Absolutely. And he knows that. That's how he's been trained already. So I'm not too worried about the fact that I'm putting on enough pressure that he can ignore me if he wanted to. The point is, even though he's ignoring me now, I'm more persistent and stubborn than he is. So I'll hang out way longer than he will ignore me. Very good. Very good. So in that way, you're almost, I mean, it's not completely undesirable. Like, he could stand there all day if he wanted to and never really be uncomfortable with this really slight pressure taken out of his rope. And so in this way, you're really giving the horses an opportunity to work with you, not for you and not against you. So getting them to go with you is the idea. If I wanted him to work for me, then I'd just put his head where I want it and be done with it. And if I was worried about having wrong timing, bad timing, and him working against me, then I would accidentally, people do this accidentally, I don't think anyone does this intentionally. Let's say he's ignoring me, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm just not getting this right, and I drop the rope. I'm gonna make mistakes, remember? So I did that because real humans make mistakes. But anyway, he's ignoring me, I drop the rope. Well, then the horse gets to learn, if I ignore you long enough, I get away with it. Good. And for right now, I think I want this to be like a 90% horse, where I can be a good trainer 90% of the time, and just a mistake-making, bad horse trainer 10% of the time, and he still turns out okay. So maybe every 10th time, I'll reward the wrong thing. Accidentally. And we'll see if he can still be on his best behavior if I do that. Because if he can, and he can deal with my mistakes, then he can deal with, a normal human owner who makes mistakes. It doesn't do horses any good to go home to an owner that can't handle them. If I train them a certain way and then the owner can't repeat what I do and the horse just misbehaves, it doesn't do them any good at all. Alright, this side's pretty good. I'm going to do this side again. So I worked on left horse, now I'm going to train right horse. Good boy, that was so good. Yes, it is. He's moving. There. So I stayed with it till he stopped moving, and I rewarded. And, being a cart horse, I think that more so than other horses, he's going to be okay with me directing him from a position behind him. But for a lot of horses, getting like this and getting responses is a big deal. Good boy. Good boy. Yeah. Alright, so he's got that pretty good, so I'm not going to drill it. I'm guessing we've been going maybe 5 minutes. So we're going to start walking around the pen now and practice on our walking. Right, buddy? Oh. Should I pick up? You bet. Good boy. I don't want to run into him when I turn, so I just kind of make some space with my hand. Let's see if he stops when my feet stop. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. When I'm leading my horses, this is about as far ahead of me as I ever want them to get. I would actually prefer if they stayed about right here. But for right now, I'll take it. When their feet are standing, I want to be able to move all around them. All right, you ready? So I want him to learn how to walk off when I walk off. I want his feet to start moving at the same time mine do. That doesn't happen if I pick up on the rope first. Just like when I'm sending him around the arena and I want him to go in the direction I point, but then I have the backup cues. I have the kiss, and then I have the whip. And on the very first day, I had to use all three, and it wasn't until I'd usually get to the whip that he would respond. But by always leading with the point, he got to the point today where anytime I point, I don't have to use the other cues. He knows they're coming if he doesn't respond, and it's easier just to respond when I point than to have to deal with the whip. Right, bud? Yeah. Get some flies in those big fuzzy ears. Oh, yeah. So the same thing, if I want him to walk off when I walk off, what is the goal? When my foot takes a step, his does too. So that is the first thing that I start with. When I take a step, I pause. Oh. That was accidental, but I rewarded it. I don't think he has any idea I rewarded it, but I did. So when I take a step, I pause. Then I pick up the rope with that slight pressure. And then when he takes a step, I take my next one. That way the pre-cue is my foot goes. Then I pick up the pressure. Then we start leading. Right, bud? You ready? Let's try again. Step. And there we go. So that's 1, 2, 3. We got to 3. As we walk around, if he falls behind me, I'll pick up the pressure on the rope a little bit. Create space in my bend. That was a good stop. I like where he stopped. I kind of gave him that hand signal where my hands opened up. Does he know what that means? Not necessarily, but he does know it's something different. So he looked at me, saw my feet stop moving, and his feet stopped too. So same thing. Ready? Okay. Good. Gonna walk. Good. So we did 1, 2, and 3. So got to step 3 before he took off with us. I'm going to go off the other way this time. Oh, good boy. Again, I think that one was accidental. He took that step with me on accident. We're going to try again. Ready? All right. Notice how I'm leading him with enough slack in the rope that it can hang slack at all, even if that means he gets behind me a little bit. Good. See how he's watching me enough to notice that hand signal? He doesn't know what it means, but because he's watching, because I'm like, look at me, he stops his feet when I stop my feet. So I don't want to lead him around right here. I know for showmanship in some pony club classes, frankly, just for your general horse training, a lot of people were taught to lead horses right here. But that means there's no slack to take up. There's never any slack in this rope. In order for me to teach him that this means something, I have to give him this. Because if I give him this all the time, then it becomes nothing. Just like if you know, wear the same t-shirt all the time, pretty quickly you forget that you're wearing clothes. It's just there. You don't really feel the t-shirt, you know, on your back. He's not going to feel this slack in the rope if it's never there. So I always want to give him the slack. That's where he rests. You ready, bud? He's like, this is pretty easy. All right, we're going to go off the other way again, and then I'm going to switch to his other side. All right. Better. slack in the rope, or I had no slack in the rope, but I gave it back when his front feet started moving again. And move. Very good. Good boy. Good boy. So I think for this horse, because he's kind of afraid of, you know, when I turn towards his butt, it means I could swing the rope at it. Good boy. So I'm on his left side. If I turn on the side I'm leading on, so turn to his left, that's going to be harder for him than turning to the right. Turning to the right, I can kind of keep his front feet moving. Turning to the left, it encourages his butt. It's not what I want, but naturally it'll encourage his butt to swing out, and his front feet can kind of lock in place, and when they lock up, he kind of locks up. Yeah? You lock up? You get tense? Boy. Alright, I'm going to start leading from the other side. Almost everything with horses is done from the left side. I think we all have a dominant side, and no matter what we do, if we practice enough on one side, our bodies just get used to it. So I'm more sloppy when I'm on a horse's right side. The horses tend to be more sloppy on their right side. But it's still a good skill to learn. What if at his new barn they're leading in 2 horses from the pasture one day and he has to be on the left side of the handler? It happens all the time. I do that all the time. Right, bud? Yeah. Good boy. So sometimes, especially with horses that I know we're going to get loved on a lot, they'll turn their head and kind of get in your face. Horses tend to do this. I have boundaries with my personal horses, and they differ depending on who I'm training for. If a horse invites himself into my space, I'm going to invite myself into his space a little bit too. Like, oh, you want some love? That's fine. We can hang out. This is cool. And it's not like anything bad, but it's kind of like they're not pushing on my space. It's this mutual thing. If it gets to the point where like they're rubbing for it and they're reaching for that, then I'll push them away. But for this horse right here, just getting some stuff in. Yeah. So he's in my space. I'm just gonna hang out. Oh, this is fun. I know, me too. But notice how I kind of push him away when I do that too. And I always end when his head is away from me, so that's where he gets the reward. It just depends on the horse to the extent that I'll do that. Bonnie, my little blue roan, she loves that so much that she'll just keep coming back for more. So she's really had to learn how to go off when I push her away and stay away. But for a big horse that's not used to a lot of affection, I do want him to get used to it. Put something in your eye. Yeah. There you go. Oh, see, I'm already trying to change sides on my horse. Alright, you ready, bud? Step. Pick up. He wants to change sides. I want to change sides. Everybody wants to change sides. So see how I said he was tense about the rope? He really wants to be on my right side. So I'm going to swing the rope on my right side. It doesn't mean anything besides if he really gets over there, it'll bop him. And it's not a hard rope, I'm holding the leather end. There he goes. There's no slack in the rope right now. There we go. Good. Let's pause and think about that. So even as I'm swinging the rope, I don't think he's been worked a lot from his right side, even before me. I'm pretty rough on my right side. I don't look nearly as good and well self-possessed on a horse's right side, my left side. But even as I was swinging that rope on this side, he was still trying to put me back on his left side, even if that meant running into the rope. So yes, this makes him nervous, but it's obvious he's used to being with humans on his left side, so he's trying to get back to a spot where he was comfortable a minute ago. He's kind of ignoring me, his head's kind of high. subconsciously make mistakes on my left side. When I'm working a horse on my left side, I make them naturally. So maybe on this side, he's gonna have to be an 80% horse. Ready? Step off. Gentle. Here's that step. Away we go. See how he's trying to get behind me and get back on that other side? Here we go. Up, up. Off we go. There we go. Slacken the rope. Slacken the rope. Bend that horse. So he locks up. There. When I say lock up, I mean his feet stop moving, specifically in the front. Tugging on the rope. We're both rough on this side. Here's that slack. There we go. I think he's going to be a bit stiff turning in these right circles. With that foot. I'm a bit rough. And it would be really easy to cut out this part of the footage and just kind of show you what I worked on the other side. Good boy. But I think it's important for people who are watching this to realize that you don't have to be super perfect and like 100% self-possessed all the time to be good with horses. They're not robots. They make mistakes. Sometimes they do it in a way that they're questioning. Sometimes it's just a genuine mistake. They got distracted, they stumbled, it happened. They're animals. They have horse emotions. Not all the same ones that humans do, but they certainly have emotions. They get distracted by things. They get frustrated by things. They get bored of things. And we do that too. You don't have to be a perfect robot of a human being to work with horses. You can be very, very imperfect and still get a lot done, so long as you've got the right mindset. And that mindset is don't blame yourself and don't blame the horse, and accept your mistakes. I can already feel that today working Loki, I'm not really at the same mental level of energy and just competence as I was in the first two videos. And I just come out sometimes and I'm not going to put my best foot forward. But I've learned that that's okay. For example, let's say we go to a horse show, and if you've ever shown in a sport, taken a test, anything, you know that it gets pretty intense at times. And your heart can start racing and you're not going to be working as well as you could. So I think, you know, when I go to a horse show, I'm probably operating at like 70% capacity, if not less. Just because of the nerves and the excitement even. So I get excited too. So if my horse is not able to handle me at 70% and still behave, then we have a problem. The only way I do well at a horse show is if my horse is like, oh, you're at 70%, well that's fine, I still know how to do my job. And we can work together even in spite of my shortcomings on that day. So yeah, I'm gonna keep showing you guys what I'm working on my left side and my mistakes and Loki too. I think I heard that GoPro, so I'm gonna check on our battery life. Oh, looks like we're still recording. Hey bud, ready to try again? Okay. Let's go. Good. That was super good. I liked about that round. First of all, I decided to use a crutch, which is the kiss. and it worked out very well. I might actually start doing that more and more with him, because you have to remember, the way he was trained, it was probably all about what he heard and the signals he got from the whip. So all this stuff where I'm up and he's watching my body, that's new. The other thing I really liked about it, when he started to try and drift behind me and get back to my right side, and I started swinging this rope, he stepped out with both legs and got to my left side. He overcorrected so much that he put pressure on the rope. And the final thing I like about it is he didn't drag me with that pressure. That was good. And he still came back in the end, so his front end didn't really lock up. And he has a habit of doing that when he, gets nervous. He'll swing his butt around, but his front end can lock up. And we don't want that. Ready, bud? There it is. Do I care that we're slow? Nope, we'll get there. Really well so far. We kind of used the arena wall as a crutch for a bit, so I'm going to do something a little more difficult. I'm going to turn into him. There it is. There. Good. See how he's waiting for me to kind of cross over in front of him so he can follow my right side? He's locking up on that front end again. By my shoulder once again and is following my shoulder, that's where the reward happens. There. Good. There we go. There we go. Walk off. Good. So I'm going to keep going. And the thing I want to see is for him to turn to that inside. Well, I guess it'd be, it just depends on where the arena wall is. Basically, turn to his left without stopping his front feet and walk off again. See how I keep having to tug on his chin? He's bracing away from me with those front legs. Trying to swing his butt as far away from me as possible. I'm going to turn. There we go. Yes. Yes. Let's go, Loki. There's the licking too. That turn was getting much better. This is good. I'm gonna go right over here. Yes. We're not walking off yet. Bracing against me again. Need him to follow me. If he was following my front feet, I say front feet, my only feet with his front feet. So if he was following my feet, there you go, then I wouldn't have to tug him along. See, I'm tugging when we turn. He needs to match up with me. Tug, tug, tug. There it is. He's dragging, he's dragging, he's dragging. There we go. rope. He's tugging. There. Notice how he's really okay with this. He's really okay with me just dragging him along. But I'm not okay with it. So rather than bracing on him, because he's a big horse, and if I brace, he can just run away with it. When I take that slack up, and I kind of bump on his nose a little. And I don't have to do this with every horse either, but one that learns to brace on you. That's better, Loki. Come with me. You're not coming with me. There it is. Bend. I'm going to stay in that bend. It's not about how long, it's about when he gets a good step. Come with me. Tug. Not what I want. Not what I want. I'm having to tug him along. He's not really following me. There, he followed. Basically, he took a step where his head and body kind of bent in the same direction of the circle we were on. Right, Loki? Man, my left side is bad. Yeah, but you're working with it. You're working good. All right. You ready? This is better. Oh, that's really good. Look at that one. That was almost a full circle with a lot of bend in it. Very good, Loki. Very good. Very good. Very good boy. Thanks. Right here, we're getting towards the very end of our session. You can see things are winding down. Unfortunately, as you'll see in a second, my GoPro cuts out again. So that's it for today. I hope to see you next time.